If you're a person who has never shot a basketball in your entire life, you can turn on an Elite Eight women's college basketball game and be electrified for 4 straight quarters, just like we saw last night. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch the Iowa-LSU game live because I was in Brooklyn for Monday Night Raw, and you should have seen what the final boss in Roman Reigns did to Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins. It was out of control. But on the plane ride back, and then again early this morning, I watched that game twice. Now, late night, maybe half asleep, but he couldn't help but notice that God damn, what we're watching here is spectacular. One answer after another. Caitlin Clark with this revenge-like attitude that she says is not a revenge-like attitude. She's just staying in the current moment. Battling against a team that beat her in the national championship last year. Against a player that was in her face saying, "You can't see me." Put the ring right in her mouth. All offseason, all Caitlin Clark and this Iowa Hawkeyes team had to do was watch LSU take a victory lap. They were at the ESPYs. They were at Disney Upfronts. They were in commercials. They were on the internet. They were in Sports Illustrated. They were everywhere. And all the ladies in Iowa could do is watch and think back about what could have been. And last night in the Elite Eight, they had a chance to get over the monster that sent them to a nightmare last year. In doing so, Caitlin Clark dropped to 41 points and 12-7 in a historic evening that'll be talked about as not only a coming out party for Caitlin Clark, because she's already been somebody that the world knows, but a staple and a stamp on an absolutely iconic college career for a lady who has every single record that is possible. This woman is going to go down as maybe the cleanest shooter in the history of basketball. Now, Steph Curry, Reggie Miller, Larry Bird, a lot of great basketball shooters. What Caitlin Clark did last night was phenomenal. We will talk to her coach, who's on a bus currently en route to the airport to travel to, I believe, the Final Four, Coach Lisa Bluter, in about 8 minutes or so.
Nice.
I can't wait to talk to her about the environment, the atmosphere, what she took away from the national championship last year, what she took into this year, what was the messaging to the team beforehand, and where do we look now as UConn in Paige Buckets sits on deck in a national championship hunt for everybody that was supposed to show up in the women's tournament has. What a magnificent March Madness the women have put together back-to-back years. Now, let's not get it twisted, okay? Let's not get it twisted. The NIT semifinals are tonight.
That's huge game. That's right.
Okay? Indiana State's taking on the Utes. And we got a lot of love for the Utes. Utah is a great state.
Great.
The University of Utah is fantastic. The people were nice. Their head football coach showed up on a Harley to our program. But all I know is that guy on the far side over there, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Rob Wave, Rob Avila, he's about to go bananas tonight. Here in Indiana as the host of the NIT semifinal. Basketball is carrying the day. We'll have Shams Charania join us in the second hour. Dan Orlovsky will join us at about 12:35, 12:40. He offended the entire hockey community last night.
Big time.
In an effort to compliment Caitlin Clark, he said that she's Wayne Gretzky, and she's certainly on her way to potentially being the Wayne Gretzky of women's basketball and the WNBA. But Wayne Gretzky had like 10 straight years where he just led the NHL in like everything. And that was how he started a career. And then if you were to take away his goals, he would still have the most points in history. You're talking about just like, like nobody would tweet Caitlin Clark as Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
That even though Caitlin Clark could potentially become the Michael Jordan of women's basketball, Dan Orlovsky just throwing out Wayne Gretzky, the hockey community was like, we get what you're doing, but
stop.
Come on.
A little disrespectful.
And then Mitt jumps on board and he's like, Caitlin Clark's actually Dale her. And then NASCAR community is like, well,
I hope not.
She's on her way. She might be on her way. We have no idea. So, everybody's excited about how great Caitlin Clark is playing. Everybody's excited about this women's tournament. But some people said what Dan Orlovsky said offended an entire community of hockey fans. So we'll have him on, talk about it, probably make fun of him for it. But I can't wait to hear why he said what he had to say. It's going to be a fantastic chatter. And you bring on Dan Orlovsky, and that's just another UConn alum. Because joining us, ladies and gentlemen, a man who reminded me right before we went live, hey, if Paige Buckets is healthy, they've always made it to the Final Four. UConn has made it 15 of the last 16 years. Okay.
Jeez.
Caitlin Clark's a fun story, this guy's. Ladies and gentlemen, NFL vet stud Darius Butler. Paige Buckets, I learned last night on the flight back from Brooklyn. Coming out of high school, she was the one. Paige Buckets was the one. Got hurt, couple times, I guess 2 years, missed 2 years. Caitlin Clark obviously comes in, takes over the world. So you got a lot of potential. Like, and last night against USC, she did everything. I'm actually the one everybody's supposed to be talking about. So we got a great matchup. But how about UConn? Men and women in the Final Four. Feels like UConn is a school that has been able to do this in the past. But you guys are a full-blown basketball school because your football team sucks so bad.
Relax on that part. It's March Madness time. We'll stick to basketball, stay there. 04 when I committed there. Men, women's, won it, had it up in stores. 10 years later, 2014, men's, women, won it again. And now we're back in it, back in the dance.
So 2024.
2024.
10 more years.
I mean, you come to your own conclusions, but it'll be a great battle. Like you said, Paige was kind of like the Caitlin Clark, before Caitlin Clark. When she came out, she had that hype, as a prospect. Coming into UConn, even though you had all the greats, Lobo, Taurasi, Bird, Maya Moore, Bree Stewart, she was still pegged that, okay, she could be better than all these ladies. So it's glad to see her back healthy. But it should be a great battle. This whole Final Four, even NC State, they got the men's and women there too, which is incredible. But to see the entire internet, the entire sports world talking about, women's basketball on that stage.
Acknowledging.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were acknowledging.
It was incredible. Incredible to watch.
Because as we're in the middle of Raw, we go to commercial break. I looked down on my phone, and I'm getting updates from the boys about what's going on there. Caitlin Clark's going crazy right now. Angel Reese fouled out, they said. She's out of the game. Oh, it's wrapped it up. They're up 12, about 1:10 left. Feels like Iowa might get the win. But, hey, I was not going to rest on their yawnies.
No,
they finished that game out. And congrats to the LSU team. Hey, congrats to the LSU team. I didn't know the amount of shit that was being sent to Angel Reese until that post-game press conference.
Yeah, very.
I would say Angel Reese was being a heel character, though, for a long time in the public eye. And Flo J told us that, we didn't know Angel. You're right. I wish we would get to know Angel. I think we will have an opportunity to do as such.
But it's very, very difficult for opposing teams to play like that the entire game. And then, again, like we see you can come up with all the superlatives you want for Caitlin Clark, and we've heard them all year, but, like, she just continues to surpass what she – like, last night they really – because as, like, an Iowa fan, you were worried about that a little bit because they were favorites, but obviously, everything with LSU's size and their physicality and all that kind of stuff. But you could tell from the opening tip, like she hits a 3 on the first possession. It's like, okay, she's going to dominate this game tonight, and she knows she needs to. And for her to have arguably one of the best performances of her career on the biggest stage, like it just speaks volumes to how much of a competitor is and how good she is at basketball.
What do they call it? Personality profiles, where they start to guess who a person is, like in mysteries and like, isn't that what they call personality profiles?
Right. Yeah.
From judging Caitlin Clark's personality profile, from what we know of her, last night she was going to go bananas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Because of what happened in the national championship. From this whole thing, from this thing, from the, can we call her great? She doesn't have a championship stuff.
Yeah.
Like the human that we have come to know. And now, granted, she was on SVP last night, Scott Van Pelt with Stanford Steve, and gave an incredible interview. But from everything that we've been told, from both our traveling to Iowa before this tournament tipped off, and then people that know her a little bit, and if you watch her, it's like, oh, she's a savage. Like, she is.
Absolute
she's
dog.
Peyton Manning. She's Tom Brady. She's Serena Williams. She is Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah,
whenever it comes to mentality up at the top of this entire thing, where it's like, oh, is that right? Like, that is the thing that drives that particular type of human. And there's not a lot of them. In all sports, there's not a lot of these people that exist. But that's why whenever situations arise where teammates laying on the ground, and she doesn't help her up. She gets the ball and she's going down the field. And I think the way it's phrased by one particular Twitter account, she just wanted the ball so she could go chuck up more shots. It's like, I don't even know if she knew that person was even on the ground. Like, there's a chance that she is just a complete
tunnel vision
rope zombie alien on that. And that's what it feels like. So if you think about everything that took place last year after that game where they lost, and then that girl, Van Lith, sorry about it.
It's a bad spot.
I mean, you're having a nightmare. Caitlin Clark step back.
Nothing you can do.
And then obviously with I don't know. What am I supposed to do? That's all over the internet.
tough on her last night.
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, forever, for a long time.
Not all of it.
I do believe whenever she was at when she was at Louisville last year too, there was a similar outcome against Caitlin Clark. So it's just like, Kim Mulkey knows, Haley knows, everybody knows. Like, Caitlin's just different, but I think you put any human guard in her last night in that particular game. I think Caitlin's going to do that. Now, can she carry that, knowing that the championship is what's going to get hung over her head? Can she carry that, knowing, and I guess this week it could be the Paige buckets and, UConn never wanted me.
Yeah, that was a dream.
UConn never wanted me.
They wanted her, not
never
me.
showed up.
I wanted to go there. Gino says, nah, you're not good enough. Now, then in the finals, it's like, okay, now you got the South Carolina team probably.
Well, they have the opposite because Iowa's the last team to beat them. So it's kind of like,
There's storylines and grudge and chips on shoulders for both these games that we have left here. And I think the women's tournament's going to continue to do what the women's tournament has done the last 2 years, and that's deliver.
For sure.
It has delivered. If you're a sports fan, they have shown up for us.
Yeah.
So thank you to the women's March Madness. Legit.
Paige Buckets and Caitlin Clark, you could absolutely make the argument, men or women's, that is the best matchup left in college basketball. Like that entire storyline that we were just talking about, obviously, Paige Buckets being the girl coming out of high school, Caitlin Clark not being the UConn girl. But to Ty's point, like, I'm sure South Carolina's been thinking about Iowa the way Iowa was thinking about LSU for that entire last year.
And they're flying under the radar. Like
Yeah.
South Carolina, I think South Carolina, they're the fourth
Couple
team.
real close games.
Almost got
Fourth team ever to make it to the Final Four undefeated. And I'm sure 2 or 3 of them probably UConn. But
did it
they're
last
flying.
year, too.
All we're talking about is, Paige and Caitlin. So I'm sure, Dahn Staley is definitely, stacking those chips on her undefeated squad as well. But it's one thing on the court, and you saw X, kind of be taken over by the women's game. But obviously great performances, but then the personalities that we're getting too. Obviously, Angel Reese and Flau'jae and what's been going on.
Hey, you were a heel.
Yeah, but
you were being a heel.
Caitlin was kind of a heel too. Like Caitlin,
Definitely.
big shit talker. And people are, is it going too far? And now she's kind of babyface kind of this year, but at the same time.
Her shit talk, people didn't respond.
People are waiting.
People want her
to see
fail.
Caitlin fail.
For sure.
But I think more people wanted to see LSU fail, especially with their coach.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Twitter last night was just all Caitlin Clark love.
Yeah.
Like all.
She won for
When she
41
plays,
No,
That's
I know
hard
that,
not
but
to be.
we've seen people perform great and they nitpick things. Like it was all.
Yeah, but as soon as Caitlin, if she has one of those 2 for 9 3-point games where she's going to the rack, it'll be loud on Caitlin, which is the top of the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
This is what the top of the mountain looks like in any sport. For Angel Reese, and we saw her, I think at the upfronts, we saw her, and you're talking right after the run, and she became one of the most famous people in America after last year's March Madness and everything. So, I thought she was playing a heel character. Like she was trying to be the heel character. And then listening to it last night after they have a devastating loss. Obviously, that was very devastating in that moment, biggest moment of the year. And you lose, and Caitlin Clark has the night of her life. And obviously, everybody's going to start dunking on you on the internet. It was nice to see her be a human. It was nice to be like, yeah, Angel say, I'm a human here, as well. And it's like, well, I think you're going to learn from all this. I think she's going to be tougher, become an even better player. But we would like to say to Angel Reese, I appreciated you being a heel.
Yes.
It's not easy to be the heel.
Exactly.
Because you get a lot of bad stuff said to you. You got to be like so we appreciate what LSU has done and how they've kind of conducted themselves and how great of a team they've been with the head coach even getting involved with, calling out journalists and this whole thing. So I've appreciated this LSU run. But that post-game press conference was unexpected.